Hi, welcome back to the basement. I'm Steve Lewis. Having spent most of the summer in 1986, I thought it was high time that we followed up on some of the great info and comments that have come in over the last couple of months. As usual, there's more than I can possibly get to. I'm going to try to get in as many as possible, and I think we'll make this the first of a two-parter. Before we get started, I wanted to thank Greg and Matt for having me on their Beach Boy Talk YouTube channel on August 29th. I was on with the greats Adam Marsland and David Beard. It was an excellent conversation, really a lot of fun. Thanks Greg and Matt for having me on, and please keep up the good work on Beach Boy Talk. I also wanted to acknowledge the very nice welcomes and comments in the chat section. I wasn't able to see the chat section during the show. I think David was able to, so I probably just had my screen display set up wrong. Anyway, those guys move so fast that I really wouldn't have been able to pay attention to the chat comments anyway, so it was probably just as well. But I did want to give a belated thanks and hello to everybody that posted such nice comments on that. And speaking of David Beard, I wanted to point out that the fall 2023 issue of David Beard's Endless Summer Quarterly is now out. Along with the usual news and updates, this issue features interviews with Malcolm Leo, who put together the landmark Beach Boys documentary An American Band in 1985, Rand Bishop and Spencer Proffer, who wrote and produced, respectively, Chase in the Sky, and Jeffrey Foskett. These just keep getting better and better. On August 20th, I saw the Mike and Bruce show in Auburn Hills, Michigan. It was the first time I'd seen Mike's Beach Boys since December 2018. I got a lot of interesting feedback and perspective on the America's Band title after discussing it in episode 183. Ironically, just after taping those episodes and saying that I was glad that that moniker, America's Band, had been dropped, I discovered that the 2023 tour was being billed as the America's Band Tour, so obviously I spoke too soon. I actually thought it was a much better performance than what I saw in 2018. Both Mike and Bruce were looking good and seemed more animated and engaged than the last time I saw them. As I recall it, Mike's voice had kind of turned into a croak in 2018. He sounded strong and much more like his old self, in a good way, at this recent show. Bruce sounded good then, and he sounds good now. He was hardly featured in 2018. This time he got a spotlight number with Disney Girls, he sang lead on a couple other numbers, and was prominently featured in the vocal mix. The 2023 set list was pretty much what you'd expect. The 2018 set list had included copious amounts of material from Unleash the Love, and being a December show, included a lot of material from Reason for the Season. I wouldn't begrudge Mike playing something from his solo albums. This time we were only subjected to Pisces Brothers, which wasn't too bad, unless you count Rockaway Beach and the arrangement of Summertime Blues from 12 Sides of Summer. Apart from that and a few minor surprises, it was pretty much the greatest hits set list that you'd expect. I will say that the performance of God Only Knows certainly made me miss Carl. And does Mike Love owe John Stamos a bunch of money or something? At one point between songs, they projected a big photo of John Stamos and Mike Love wished him a happy birthday. He then pointed out that they had wished Stamos a happy birthday during their show the prior night, which was Stamos' actual birthday. Stamos wasn't present at either show. I know they're pals and everything, but it seemed a little odd to wish him a happy birthday when he wasn't there. It seemed pretty bizarre to do it when it wasn't even his birthday. As you'd expect, it was a slick, professional show. The songs, of course, are undeniable, and I appreciate that they're out there performing them live. It was a hot, humid night, and the entire group, including Mike and Bruce, really brought it for the better part of 3 hours. You've got to admire them for that, especially coming from two guys in their 80s. And I got to believe being a touring rock star is a pretty enviable way to spend your 80s, too. Recently in the comments section, I was talking t-shirts with Ranger Girl, who suggested that I ought to have a Glendale Speed Center t-shirt as featured in the 1971 film Two-Lane Blacktop, starring James Taylor and, of course, Dennis Wilson. That certainly fit my fashion sense, so here it is. It's great how you can find the most obscure t-shirts now online with just a few clicks. Thanks for the suggestion, Ranger Girl. In one of the most embarrassing gaffes I've made on this channel, and I've made a few, in episode 178, Pop Culture 1986 Part 3, I said, Jessica Tandy played Jennifer Fletcher on Murder, She Wrote. Apart from the name Fletcher, everything I said was wrong. Of course, the lead character on Murder, She Wrote was Jessica Fletcher, portrayed by the famous Angela Lansbury. Not only did I know better, I can't believe that having said it, I didn't notice it and fix it before posting the video. Friendly76, Amy Therese Perhack, William LaRue, and John Hammond were the first to catch it. Thanks for pointing that out, and thanks to the many others who undoubtedly noticed it for not piling on. Can't believe that one got by me. I think I usually get into trouble when I'm talking about something I think I know well, so I'm not as vigilant about double checking. Along those same lines, Justin, who goes by the screen name Now, pointed out that in episode 181, I said that David Bowie's Tonight album was released in 1983, which seemed perfectly correct to me until I stopped to think that was, of course, the year of his great popular success with the Let's Dance album and the Serious Moonlight tour. As Justin correctly pointed out, Tonight was released in 1984. And finally, in episode 180, U.S. Pop Culture 1986 Part 5, I said that Matlock had Andy Griffith returning to series television after 20 years. Dr. Insomnia caught that the Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968, which made it 18 years. I should have known that, especially as I'd mentioned the end of the series and its successor show, Mayberry RFD, last summer in episode 126, U.S. Pop Culture 1968, Part 6. Once again, thanks to everybody who brought those mistakes to my attention. I know I promised a break from 1986 after spending virtually the entire summer of 2023 talking about it, but viewer comments reminded me or let me know that even as extensively as we covered 1986, there are still some notable Beach Boy events that we missed. Firstly, I completely forgot to mention that there was also a 12-inch release of Rock and Roll to the Rescue. Among those who brought it to my attention were Betamax Blocker and KV. The 12-inch contains both sides of the 7-inch release, plus 3 remixes of the A-side. As KV succinctly described them, the Beach Party Mix, Extended Dance Mix, is longer and has a slightly different backing track. The Percadella Mix is stripped down with mostly just percussion and vocals. Finally, there's an instrumental version. The original single runs 3 minutes and 42 seconds. The Percadella mix comes in at 3 minutes 49 seconds. The instrumental mix is slightly extended at 4 minutes 19 seconds, and the Beach Party mix runs 6 minutes and 31 seconds. The remixes were done by Victor Flores, a producer-engineer who had recently created the US fan club edit of Wang Chung's Dance Hall Days, the dance mix of Mr. Mister's Is It Love, and the special club mix of Starship's We Built This City, among much else. I was never a fan of these kinds of remixes. Apart from anything else, it just wasn't that interesting to me how some third party would reinterpret a group's sound or make it more danceable. These also felt largely like cash grabs to me that record companies would continue to churn out remixes as long as people continued to buy them. Nevertheless, the 12-inch release of Rock and Roll to the Rescue is notable and definitely should have been mentioned. Betamax Blocker was also among those who mentioned the 25th Anniversary Collection, which was released in 1986 on cassette only. There's no new material there, but it is a nice and fairly comprehensive collection of their 1960s Capitol recordings from Surfin' through Breakaway for people buying their music on cassette in 1986. Additionally, Betamax Blocker mentioned that most of the Beach Boys, along with Darlene Love, appeared on the title track of Joan Jett's 1986 album, Good Music. Excellent call, Betamax. We'll be discussing this in detail in a soon-to-be-launched series of episodes on Beach Boys guest appearances. Thanks for the info, and if you haven't done it, please be sure that you check out Betamax Blocker's very cool and very entertaining channel here on YouTube. We talked about a couple of the Beach Boys' 1986 television appearances. Michael Lukens was among those who pointed out that the group lip-synced to both their singles, Rock and Roll to the Rescue and California Dreamin', on the syndicated series Solid Gold. Rock and Roll to the Rescue was aired on the Solid Gold Summer Special on July 15, 1986. The group opened the show with a hits medley among balloons and beach balls thrown by the studio audience and the Solid Gold dancers. Later, they returned for a mimed performance of Rock and Roll to the Rescue, which had been out for about 5 weeks at the time. California Dreamin' was aired on October 1st, 1986. Solid Gold did a nice job of photographing the group for that one, and they look great. Once again, Mike mimes the sax break. I said earlier that I hadn't been able to determine who actually played the sax break on California Dreamin'. Based on online information passed along by Burlington Bill 1 and comments from viewer Michael Lazzari, it appears it was the great session sax man Steve Douglas. Talking about the 1986 Sunkist Presents 25 Years of Good Vibrations album, I said I thought that this was possibly the first time the 1981 Beach Boys medley had appeared on an album. Michael Lukens remembered that it had already been released on the Sunshine Dream compilation in June 1982. Betamax Blocker pointed out that in addition to the Good Vibrations ad campaign, Sunkist also used California Girls in their commercials for Diet Sunkist in 1983. The West Coast has the sunshine and the girls so tan and trim. Sippin' Diet Sunkist keeps them California slim. Wish you all could be California slim. And speaking of Sunkist, I asked for feedback on where the Sunkist Presents 25 Years of Good Vibrations album was originally available. I got first-hand confirmation that the album was for sale at concerts that summer. KJCS Weber got it at a show in New York, and RJM bought it at a show in Allentown, Pennsylvania. They both still have their albums, and RJM even managed to get it signed by Carl, Mike, Al, and Bruce. Coincidentally, William LaRue sent me a clipping about the Allentown concerts where RJM scored his autographed album. It's from Allentown's paper The Morning Call, dated September 2nd, 1986. The article actually mentions the Sunkist album being available at the concerts for $7. The reporter gives generally glowing reviews of the two concerts the group played at the Allentown Fair on August 31st. I noticed that in the article he references big band music twice, describes the Beach Boys as having a drum-driven sound, and compliments the fact that the volume level, in a change from most rock concerts, was at a listenable level so you could understand the lyrics. It gives me the idea that the reporter was not exactly Lester Bangs, and despite the generally positive review, rock and roll music may not have been his particular cup of Java Jive. William LaRue was also able to confirm that, as suspected, this album was available by mail order. He passed along this ad from the October 6, 1986 edition of the Minneapolis Star and Tribune. As you can see, it contains a coupon to purchase the album by mail for $4.99, $2 less than it was at the Allentown concert. It's kind of hard to read, but the text on the coupon gives the complete track listing for the album and describes the album booklet. There's also a coupon for 30 cents off select Sunkist products. Above the coupon, the ad contained the following text. Sunkist wants you to have fun, fun, fun with the Beach Boys in Hawaii. Imagine taking an all-expense-paid trip to Hawaii in early December, attending a Beach Boys concert and rubbing elbows with the famous surfers in a pre-concert beach party. You can, thanks to Sunkist's Party with the Beach Boys sweepstakes. Sunkist Orange Soda is sponsoring the Beach Boys' 25th anniversary tour. And to celebrate, we're giving 100 lucky couples in the U.S. this fabulous vacation. You could win a 4-day, 5-night trip for two to the sun-drenched paradise of Hawaii. We'll take care of the airfare, hotel accommodations, most meals, transfers, concert tickets, and party expenses. Just listen to the radio station advertised here for details. The Beach Boys appeared at the Minnesota State Fair on August 25th, 19 days after this ad ran in the local paper. Obviously, the ad is laid out to be easily customizable for different local newspapers. Bill also sent a clip from the Marketing Today column of the May 25, 1986 Daily Oklahoman. It discloses that Sunkist has purchased space in the paper to run an ad ahead of the Beach Boys' appearance in Oklahoma City on June 9th. From the description, it sounds pretty much identical to the one in the Minnesota paper, except for the specifics of the concert. According to this banner for Vons supermarket ads from the July 10th Los Angeles Times that Bill found, entry blanks for the Trip to Hawaii contest could be found at Sunkist in-store displays along with, I suspect, coupons to purchase the album by mail. Finally, Bill sent this cool clipping from the August 6, 1986 edition of the Syracuse Post-Standard. It describes a group of local cheerleaders preparing to appear on stage with the Beach Boys at an upcoming concert during Barbara Ann. This was apparently something the group was doing a lot during the 1986 tour. The Allentown clipping mentions local cheerleaders being on stage for the number, and we saw in episode 185 that local university cheerleaders were on hand for Be True to Your School at the 25th anniversary show in Hawaii. The coolest thing about this clipping is that byline. The article is by no less than Bill LaRue himself, covering Beach Boy related news since at least 1986. Thanks so much, Bill, for all that great information and all those great press clippings. Also on that 25 Years of Good Vibrations episode, I wondered if the live version of Runaway on this album was actually live or some kind of a stitch-up between live and live in the studio recordings. Justin, who I mentioned goes by the YouTube name Now after his band, pointed out that in the Rustin Stebbins Beach Boys in Concert book, it's identified as having come from a concert at the Blossom Music Center in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio on June 6, 1982. This was confirmed by Lake Erie surfer who was actually at the show. He recalled the live recording experience comment that's in the introduction on the Sunkist album and adds that they performed the song again during the encore in hopes of getting a suitable live recording. Justin and Go With The Flow were among those reporting that the live version of Runaway was under consideration for a single release at the time it was recorded. I really wonder what they had in mind. It seems like a live A-side is pretty unusual unless it's from a live album, and if they were considering it for a B-side, I really wonder what else they might have been considering for release in 1982. Anyway, the single obviously never materialized, and it ended up being the main draw for Beach Boy collectors on the Sunkist album. I really want to thank everybody for the great information on that. Really appreciate it. On a completely different topic, in discussion with David Beard and Giggins a while back, we speculated on why the 9-year-old track It's Okay was chosen as the B-side of It's Getting Late in 1985. It was also used as the B-side of California Calling in Japan and Australia, and Passing Friend in the UK. David Beard pointed out during our discussion that it's a song that Mike Love strongly believes in, and it is a good track. Looking back at the Beach Boys' '85 album, I noticed that the two tracks with a Mike Love writing credit had been used as both sides of the first single. I wonder if, with Carl, along with Myrna Smith and Robert White Johnson getting writing credit on the second single, it might have been considered more equitable if Mike and Brian got a writing credit on the B-side. Just a thought, but it did make me wonder if maybe the choice of It's Okay was more financially than aesthetically driven. By the way, as you might have noticed, I finally got a picture sleeve of the It's Getting Late single. This is something I didn't have when I talked to David Beard and Giggins. I was in Los Angeles recently and managed to track down one at a very reasonable price. That's all we have time for right now. I look forward to your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll talk about more of those comments next time. Meanwhile, have a great week. Thanks for watching. Bye.